أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والفجر وليال عشر والشفع والوتر والليل إذا يسر هل في ذلك قسم لذي حجر ألم تر كيف فعل ربك بعاد إرم ذات العماد التي لم يخلق مثلها في البلاد وثمود الذين جابوا الصخر بالواد وفرعون ذي الأوتاد الذين طغوا في البلاد فأكثروا فيها الفساد فصب عليهم ربك سوط عذاب إن ربك لبالمرصاد فأما الإنسان إذا ما ابتلاه ربه فأكرمه ونعمه فيقول ربي أكرمن وأما إذا ما ابتلاه فقدر عليه رزقه فيقول ربي أهانن كلا بل لا تكرمون اليتيم ولا تحاضون على طعام المسكين وتأكلون التراث أكلا لما وتحبون المال حبا جما كلا إذا دكت الأرض دكا دكا وجاء ربك والملك صفا صفا وجيء يومئذ بجهنم يومئذ يتذكر الإنسان وأنى له الذكرى يقول يا ليتني قدمت لحياتي فيومئذ لا يعذب عذابه أحد ولا يوثق وثاقه أحد يا أيتها النفس المطمئنة ارجعي إلى ربك راضية مرضية فادخلي في عبادي وادخلي جنتي صدق الله العلي العظيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآله.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا ومولانا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين ولعنة الله على أعدائهم إلى قيام يوم الدين. We have in the tradition, and many of times this tradition is in the shrines of the family of the Prophet, that nafasul mahmum li dhulmina tasbih, that a side grief or a sad sigh for our oppression is equal to glorification and remembrance of God. Meaning that these last 12, 13 nights that you were sad, you cried for Imam Hussein alayhi salam, and you gave a sad sigh, this is equal to remembering God, glorifying God. A person might be confused, said, well, how is it? Thank you so much. How is it that being sad for Imam Hussein alayhi salam or the family of the Prophet is equal to remembering God, glorifying God? We have an interesting statement from one of our great scholars, Ayatollah Shaheed Muhammad Baqir al-Sadr. And he mentions that Imam Hussein alayhi salam is not an addi or normal person that lived during one time and then died during a different time. That he says that Imam Hussein in al-Hussein kal Islam. He as if he is all of Islam, kakul, as if he is all of Islam. If I ask you right now in your minds to depict or imagine Islam, what would it be? If it were to manifest itself, what would it be? It would be a human, because a human is the best of God's creation, right? Human is much more capable in understanding and remembering God better than any other creation. So the embodiment of Islam is Imam Hussein alayhi salam. In the day of Karbala, in the day of Ashura, in the plains of Karbala, that Imam Hussein has been martyred, that is Islam being martyred, Islam itself being martyred. So therefore, remembering and being sad for Imam Hussein is being sad because he is the embodiment of Islam. Therefore, you're crying for God's religion. And crying for God's religion is equal to crying for God, remembering God. So therefore, remembering Imam Hussein is much different than remembering than a normal person who passed away. For a normal person, 1400 years, he will not be remembered and cried for. Yet we see that the crying and mourning for Imam Hussein alayhi salam, every year you're surprised it becomes more international. You see in different continents, they're remembering Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Sometimes you're surprised, you see in Japan, for example, remembering Imam Hussein. You see so many Muslims, so many followers of Ali Muhammad in Africa, for example, you see. And here in the US, we see the major cities like New York, Los Angeles, Chicago have processions. Sometimes in New York, you have in one of the main areas, once a year in New York, in Manhattan, that many other organizations wish to be able to get permission to have a procession there. But because this procession is so old in New York, one of the only groups or only days of remembrance in Manhattan is for Imam Hussein alayhi salam. You see that the organization, for example, who is Hussein in Times Square, last year at least they had this, that they are remembering Imam Hussein and how many people go through Times Square, for example, in New York. So alhamdulillah, this remembrance is becoming more and more, and the reason for this, as we said, is not a normal death or martyrdom, it is Islam. It's connected to Allah. When we look at the story of Prophet Ibrahim, Abraham and Ismail, they constructed the Holy Kaaba. And in the tradition it has, when they constructed the Holy Kaaba, he was commanded by Allah to construct. He sat down, and there he says, Halom al-Hajj. Halom al-Hajj. I don't know, from this masjid, do we have anyone that went to Hajj this year? I'm looking for the bald heads. I don't see. Maybe inshallah before. But yes, we had in other centers we had. I think maybe some came from here. Those, they can testify that Prophet Ibrahim was there because the imprints of his feet are there. Maqam Ibrahim. The imprints of his feet are there. So he says, Halumul Hajj. And the narration says from Imam Sadiq alayhi salam that Prophet Ibrahim didn't say Halummu ila al-Hajj. Halummu is plural. Halumma is mufrad, is singular. Because Prophet Ibrahim was not addressing plural all the people present there. If they're all the people that were present there, it's wajib. Come to Hajj, it's wajib. And they'll say labbaik, labbaik. That's the answer. Means I am ready. I will follow the instructions. But he says halum al-Hajj, meaning singular, meaning every insan, jinsul insan, we can understand. The genus of insan, the species of insan, of humans. That all humans, all of you, come to Hajj. So meaning even us, he called us to Hajj. And it says in the traditions, even those that were in the loins, aslab, they're in the loins of their fathers and men, they responded to also labbaik to Ibrahim. Labbaik. And that's actually what the talbiyah is. When you say labbaik Allahumma labbaik, you say to Allah, you're answering to Allah. but it is a call that Ibrahim also gave to the people to come and perform Hajj. So the call of Prophet Ibrahim is what? Was it limited to that time period only? Or was it a call for all of mankind? All of mankind in this tradition. All of mankind. And they say, Labbaik, meaning I'm ready. Is the call of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, when he requested people to come and assist him, was that only for his time? Or was it is it including and incorporating us as well? We understand in the same way that Prophet Ibrahim's call is timeless, the call of Imam Hussein for assistance is also timeless. We have in the ziyarat of the month of Rajab that Imam Hussein alayhi salam is addressed by Labbaik ya da'i Allah. Labbaik da'i Allah. Here I am at your service, O caller of Allah. This is how you say visitation and say salam to Imam Hussein. You say Labbaik. So therefore we understand that when we say Labbaik ya Hussein, it means I am answering the call of Imam Hussein that happened 1400 years ago. Just how Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam in the tradition that we had from Imam Sadiq in Al-Kafi, that he called for Hajj, Halum al-Hajj, that we say Labbaik and we answer, we are also calling to the help of Imam Hussein, but in a different way. True, the ziyarah that says, for example, if my body cannot respond to your call, but my heart, my hearing, my sight has verily responded. فَقَدْ أَجَابَكَ قَلْبِي وَالسَّمْعِ وَبَصَرِي. My heart, my hearing, my sight has responded. So ziyarat of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, month of Rajab, is saying that the call, the answering of Imam Hussein alayhi salam's call is for us right now. And you have answered. It's been 10 nights, 13 nights, and you've been crying for Imam Hussein alayhi salam. You've been answering his call. You could have been like some other people in this nation that the time period of Muharram was normal for you. But you wanted to remember Imam Hussein, and especially the organizers, the volunteers, how much they worked, how hard they sacrificed to answer the call of Imam Hussein. Brothers and sisters, if you want to understand one thing about why we remember Ashura, it is to answer the call of Imam Hussein. And why do we want to answer the call of Imam Hussein? Because we want to say we are ready. Labbaik means I'm ready. I'm at your service. It means that we want to be at the service of our wali, our imam, the imam of the age. This is what it means. It means that Ashura does tarbiyat and develops us to be good followers of the imam of the age. Unfortunately, some people, they think that Muharram is just wearing black, crying, feeding people, for example, and Ashura, eating qaymeh, for example, and that's it, we're over, very good, or halim, and that's it, we're done. But it's not that. It's about training yourselves, your family, your society, to become like the followers of Imam Hussein alayhi salam for our wali, our imam. How many times, I ask you, is Imam Mahdi mentioned in Ziyarat to Ashura? Twice. Twice. Maybe he's looking at my notes from over there, I don't know, but twice. No, it's not in my notes. So twice we see, because there's a connection between being Husseini and remembering the Imam. This needs to be something very active in us. That we are trained as Shia, as followers of Ali Muhammad, that we have an Imam, and that we're learning, training ourselves to submit, make our will, his will, whatever he wants. Question, who has more authority upon us? Ourselves or Rasulullah or the Imams? This is in the Hadith of Qadir. It's in the Hadith of Qadir that the Rasulullah has more wilayat over us, authority, than ourselves. This is what it means to remember Ashura correctly. It means that you are slowly, just how Imam Hussein had companions, developing companions for Imam Mahdi Ajallah Ta'ala Faraj. We look at Imam Hussein alayhi salam's Ashura and the effect of it, the impact that it has. And we see in the letter that he wrote to Muhammad Hanafiya that أني or إني لم أخرج أشرا ولا بطرا ولا مفسدا ولا ظالما. I have not come to rebel, I have not come to cause corruption. وإنما خرجت لطلب الإصلاح. I have come to rectify, to reform society, to reform the ummah of my grandfather. This was the purpose, and according to this letter, that Imam Hussein alayhi salam rebelled, was talabul islah, to reform, to change. And we said that this is a call that we want to help Imam Hussein. Therefore, the more you help to change society, the more you have given labbaik and said labbaik to Imam Hussein. The issue of reformation was the goal of all the prophets. All the prophets came to change society. We look at stories of the Quran. First of all, when you read the Quran, you see this word Islah in the Quran. What is the opposite of it? What is the opposite of Islah in the Quran? Fasad, corruption. Quran very beautifully gives opposites. When you read Quran, you understand to identify a word, it gives the opposite meaning. I'm going to say one and you say the opposite. What's nur and nur? What's the opposite? Dhulmat. Do you notice I'm saying the positive word, you guys are saying the negative words. I'm giving myself the positive. Let's give you another example. For example, al-hidayah. And what's the opposite of it? Dalalat. Very good. Now I'll say one, kufr. What is the opposite of that? Iman. So Quran always, you see sometimes in the same verse, gives the opposites, because in Arabic we say they say يُعْرَفُ الْأَشْيَاء بِأَضْدَادِهَا. Things are known by their opposites. For example, you know light by darkness, right? That's how you know, for example, light. So therefore you see Quran, when mentioning Islah, when mentioning reformation, talks about misguided, talks about fasad and corruption. One of the very first verses in Surah Baqarah is about a group of people that sometimes people exist like this. They claim that they are people that are reforming. They are the muslihun, but they're not. وَإِذَا قِيلَ لَهُمْ لَا تُفْسِدُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ. When we tell them, don't cause corruption. Just like today you see, for example, there are those that are bombing innocent children. Every day, kids are amputated, their arms and legs, as we speak. And they say they cause fasad, they cause corruption, but actually they say, إِنَّمَا نَحْنُ مُصْلِحُونَ. We're actually the good ones. We want peace. They're the ones that started it, or they're the ones that caused it. We want peace. Then Quran says, أَلَا إِنَّهُمْ هُمُ الْمُفْسِدُونَ. True, this verse is about the hypocrites. But we can always say verses of Quran are eternal and can apply to our daily lives. So therefore, you see very beautifully Quran uses muslih and, for example, la tufsidun fasad in the same way, in the same verse. So I want you, next time you recite the Quran, say how beautiful Quran uses. One of the speakers was saying that someone actually gave their thesis on this, the opposites in the Quran. Next time you read the Quran, see the opposites and how Allah uses them very beautifully. In the Quran, we have the example of Prophet Shu'aib. He was one of the prophets in Midian or Madain. And at that time, he was tasked to change his society. What was the problem with Prophet Shu'aib's society? What sin did they do? They were poor. What else? One was belief in Tawheed. They believed in different gods. Quran mentions, for example, Quran says, قالوا يا شعيب الصلاتك تأمرك أن نترك ما يعبد آباؤنا. Does your salat command you for us to leave what our parents, our grandparents used to do, our religion? One was their previous polytheist religion that they have. So Prophet Shu'aib came, as many prophets were on to do Islam. To say, no, La ilaha illallah, there's no God but Allah. Then also they had another problem, and that is that the mikyal and mizan, They would, Quran mentions, لا تنقصوا المكيال والميزان. Do not make the measure, do not decrease from the measure and the scale. Right? So what they would do is, for example, they would tell people, they would sell them short, for example. Instead of giving a few pounds, they purchase, say, 5 pounds of a good. For example, they would receive 2.5, 2, for example. They would get less. They would mess around with the scale. Some say that this was the first time that the scale was introduced from Prophet Shu'aib, that people can learn how to weigh things and sell, but they would give them less. Short charge? Short changing them, yes. Ripping them off in a way. So 2 parts of Islam. One is beliefs here. One is economic reformation, business practice. We talked about that last night. Prophet Shu'aib then comes and says this very beautiful thing in Quran. It says that, in uridu illa al-islah. I've come only for islah. I've only come to reform you. Mastatat. Whatever I'm allowed. Meaning that, oh people, if you do not change, you don't want to change, me as a prophet, I cannot make you change. You have to. I will remove the barriers. I will educate you. I will tell you, for example, what is the consequences of such an action. But that decision is up to you. Do you want to become better? That is up to you. I cannot force you. And then the Quran mentions that وَمَا تَوْفِيقِ إِلَّا بِاللَّهِ. And that tawfiq and success is up to Allah. I am just a prophet. I cannot make anyone change. So therefore we see that Islah has these two parts. One is we have to want that change ourselves. And the other part is that God will not force us to have change. And therefore we see that Imam Hussein alayhi salam, also he was tasked with changing his society. What was going on in around the year 60? What happened? That Imam Hussein alayhi salam says, I want Islah. Now I'm not going to go over the history, but there's a lot of things that led up to Imam Hussein understanding that he's at a dead end, that he cannot do anything else for Islah except to give his holy blood. There's only, when the situation becomes so bad that the grandson of Rasulullah, the Imam of the age, has to spill his blood, is actually commanded with his family. Usually people do not go into war with families. Do not go with, there's so many women and children, if you ever counted. For example, from Imam Ali alayhi salam's daughters, look who's there, for example, Ruqayyah, for example, Imam Ali's daughters, Kulthum, for example, with children. A lot of these were mother of shuhada. They were there and their children were shaheed in front of them, for example. Lady Zainab alayhi salam, Aun and Muhammad, for example. The mother of Qasim ibn al-Hasan, for example, was there. The mother of Ali Asghar was there. They witnessed. These mothers, they were there and they witnessed. It was not a normal battle. It was a battle that Imam Hussein alayhi salam was instructed to take his family. And this was the letter that he gave to Abdullah ibn Abbas, I believe, that he tells him that Allah, he asks, why do you take your family? He says, Allah wills that they will be sabaya, that Allah wills that they will become captives. Because Allah wants to change, do Islah through the holy blood of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. So what was going on during that time that was so, needed such a big change or wake-up call? One, people were hiding the hadith. People were not allowing the narrations of Rasulullah to be spread for around 90 years, almost 100 years probably. Something like that, around 80, 100 years, the government at that time did not allow the hadith of Imam Ali alayhi salam, the fada'il of Imam Ali, to be shared. Why do you think they would do that? Why do you think they would ban all of hadith? Because how many narrations there were about Imam Ali? People that are new to Islam, people that were confused, they'll say, wait, why are you the ruler? There's all these hadith of Qadir, for example, 100 days before the Prophet passed away in front of 120,000 people. What about this? What are you guys talking about? How about hadith al-Thaqalain, 280 things, for example? Hadith al-Tayr, hadith al-Walayat. This verse of Quran, what does it mean? Ayat Tathir, what does that mean? Verse of purification, verse of, again, Walayat 555, for example, verse of Mubahila 361. What are all these verses? What are all these narrations? So they had to stop it and censor it. First thing they did, censor hadith. Do Shia say this? Only no, Sunnis say it too. Look at history. It's called Man'u Tadween al-Hadith. That hadith was prohibited from shared and being compiled. And it has in the books, Ahl Sunnah has it, that the first Khalifa comes and burns 500 narrations from the Prophet, says the reasoning for is because it will be mixed with Quran. It will be mixed with Quran. How can hadith be mixed with Quran? One is a miracle, one is a speech. So therefore they stopped the narrations of the Rasulullah. When you stop that, you stop belief in imamat. You stop all the narrations about oneness of God. You stop all the explanation of how to perform salat, how to perform hajj, all these actions. All of it was stopped, and they would conquer new lands, and they would say, tell us what Prophet Muhammad said, for example. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. And they were instructed to recite Quran, recite Quran. You don't need to know what our Prophet said. As if 23 years, nothing. Then censored, now question. You want to know what the Quran says? There's stories in the Quran about previous prophets. Stories about Ashabul Kahf. How are we going to answer this now? Now you've put Imam Ali away. You put Ahlul Bayt away. How are you going to do tafsir and commentary of Quran? How are you going to understand it? They began to bring people that used to be Christian, used to be Jewish. And they began before Friday prayers to begin to give the stories, what the Bible says, what the Torah says. And those same corrupt, because they were changed, those same corrupt stories came into Islam. So now you have Judaism coming into Islam, now you have Christianity coming to Islam, and now you have 23 years of what Rasulullah said away, and that person that has ilmul kitab, which is Ali ibn Abi Talib, is put away. He's digging wells. He's working in different ways, but he's digging wells. He's doing economic work, for example. So what do you think would happen after 50 years of this to the year 60? You keep continuing this, and now you have the Umayyads come to power. Now you have the Umayyads. Let me tell you a little bit about the Umayyads. Do you know that around 132, I believe, is when the Abbasids took over the Umayyads? They shifted. The Abbasid, there is so much hatred of Bani Umayyads, that the Abbasids came and they killed anyone who was an Umayyad Khalifa or governor. They began to hunt them down. Some of them ran off to Egypt and Sudan. They took the grave of Muawiyah and Yazid, they took the grave out. The Abbasids did this. So one of them, the son, I believe his name is Abdullah, the son of the last Umayyad Khalifa, Marwan II, runs away. His son runs away, goes and gets protection from a Christian king. 3 days he gives them protection because they're hunting them down. People do not want the Umayyads anymore. He asks him, he gets him, he says, I have a question for you. How many years did you rule your dynasty? He says, Abdullah ibn Marwan II says around 80, 90 years. 80, 90 years. And he says to him then, what is haram in your religion? For example, drinking, being intoxicated, haram relationships, for example. What's wajib, for example, praying. He says, did you do this? Did you follow this yourselves? Did you follow this? He says, no. None of us Umayyads followed this. None of us. We did whatever we want. We told the people not to drink, but we would drink. We told the people, pray, but we wouldn't pray, for example. And he says, get out of here. Get out of here. Now I figured out why you guys crashed so bad, because you didn't practice. You didn't practice what you were supposed to be the leaders of. Get out of here. I'm afraid of Allah's punishment. Get out of here, Christian. Or you see, for example, the story of Abdullah ibn Hanzala. Abdullah ibn Hanzala is one of the sons of the Shuhada of the Battle of Uhud. And you see that he is, Abdullah ibn Hanzala. He has 8 children, 8 sons. Who's his father? Hanzala that went to the Battle of Uhud was Shaheed. He is one of the main chief of the Ansar of Medina. Yazid wants to send him, after the martyrdom of Imam Hussein, he wants to send him to Medina to make sure everything is okay, because Medina was very upset, obviously, but what they did was say the Shuhada. So they take the leaders of Medina to have a meeting with Yazid in Sham. So this Abdullah ibn Hanzala, who has 8 sons, and is a son of a Shaheed, in charge of Medina, one of the Ansar, goes, one of the main figures, goes 1 month or less to Sham, to Syria, and comes back. Back then, it wasn't like now where you have videos, you have interviews, and everyone can watch each one's behavior. The information in Sham, a lot of times in Syria, stayed in Sham. They wouldn't allow it to go to Medina. They would lie. So they asked him when he came back after this meeting, he says, how did you see Yazid? How did you see him? How did you see his, for example, did he pray? Did he not? He says during the prayer, for example, he was always drunk. He didn't pray. He was drunk during Salah. He had haram relationships. He committed dhulm and oppression. And the people of Medina, now that one of their very confidence went to Sham and came back, he says, the Khalifa of the Muslim doesn't even pray. He drinks, for example. He commits dhulm. He has haram relation. He doesn't do anything. They got very upset and they rebelled. And they caused Yazid to take his army and to come. And you probably heard of the Battle of Harra. They came and they decimated Medina. Decimated. And 8 of his sons were shaheed in Medina. This Abdullah ibn Hanzala, 8 of his sons they fought against Yazid, and so much, I don't want to open, and open exactly what they did during that time, but they decimated the city of Medina. So therefore you understand that Islam, when you talk about Reformation, you had hadith the true hadith being censored. You had the fake fabrication of hadith and stories. You had during the time of Muawiyah, a lot of the hadith were fabricated during the time of Muawiyah, giving them prizes or whatever to make up hadith, for example. And now you have the khulafa that didn't have anything to do with Islam. So therefore, what would have, I ask you, if this would have continued, how long Islam would have lasted for? Even this little bit of Islam. Because we have the tradition that the religion of Islam will follow the path of the Jews and Christians, for example. The other religions, na'al bin na'al. Just like, shoe by shoe, or, horseshoe by horseshoe. So what do you think would have happened? So Allah decided that Imam Hussein alayhi salam come with his pure family, the purest of people, light itself, nur itself, and fight against this corruption, fight against this oppression. And for us, for forever, to be a symbol that Islam is wrong, but there still is a good Islam. There still is pure Islam. There still is hope. Even if it might be few. Even if there might be a little now. But it exists and the path is saved. So therefore, Imam Hussein alayhi salam saved Islam. And the Imams continued from Imam Sajjad to Imam Baqir. They continued to remember Imam Hussein so that no other Imam would become shaheed this way. There would be no need for another Karbala. It said, remember Karbala. The Imams continued to weep for Imam Hussein, Imam Sajjad for 34 years. Imam Baqir alayhi salam would have majlis for Imam Hussein. Actually the first majlises that happened, first people that hit themselves, this is latamat, they would hit themselves with the women of Bani Hashim when they saw the bodies. They hit themselves. That's where lutmiya, we can say, come from. They hit themselves in the face. Then Imam Sajjad alayhi salam would have majlis. It says in tradition they would wear black and they would hit themselves. Imam Sajjad would provide food for them. So gatherings for Imam Hussein's mourning for him. Imam Baqir alayhi salam then would invite people and Kumayt al-Asadi and poets and have them recite and take his hands and say, may Allah forgive your previous sins and future sins, Kumayt. Then you see the narrations from Imam Sadiq alayhi salam during his time. How many narrations he has for a person that cries for Imam Hussein, a person makes others cry for Imam Hussein, a person that recites poetry for Imam Hussein, that their sins will be forgiven. Then you have Imam Kadhim alayhi salam, you have Imam Rida alayhi salam, invite Ad-Di'bil al-Khuzai, invite people that only recited for Ahlul Bayt, and later on he was executed, he was killed, that he would recite in front of Imam Rida alayhi salam, and Imam Rida gave his own shirt to Di'bil al-Khuzai. Continue this line until you reach Imam Hassan Askari, who recite, you do Imam recite Ziyad Nahiya, that in the ziyarah that says from Samira, Nahiya means Samira, that we will cry for you in place of tears, blood. As Sheikh Salim would mention in the minbar, how much must you cry until your tears become blood. So this preservation was from Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, and this need to rectify into Islah of society was for Imam Hussein. But our duty is to remember, continue remembering, because the lessons, there are 100 about solid lessons of Imam Hussein alayhi salam in Ashura, for young, for old, for male, for female. This helps us, this changes us. But the entire point that we can understand is that it makes and produces followers and good companions of Imam Zaman. And that is our goal, to become Husseini, to become like Imam Hussein, similar to him, and to be ready to help the Imam of the age, inshallah, in his reappearance. Please recite salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. If we can dim the lights. As we know that every night in Muharram and Safar something is happening. The musibat of Imam Hussein alayhi salam does not end with day of Ashura. Every day is like a book of calamities. We talked about Lady Zainab alayhi salam seeing the holy body of Imam Hussein alayhi salam and crying and causing others to cry. Now she enters the city of Kufa in such a time period. Now you imagine, these are the people that wrote letters to Imam Hussein. Thousands, tens of thousands of letters. They wrote letters, Imam Hussein, come, where are you? We're ready for you, Imam Hussein, we're ready for you. So Imam Hussein sends Muslim ibn Aqil for them. His brother, calls him his brother, comes. And they gave allegiance to Muslim ibn Aqil, the same city. 18,000 people, some say 18,000 people came at the beginning and gave allegiance to Muslim ibn Aqil. And then later on, they're the same ones that surrounded him and killed him. Now Lady Zainab alayhi salam is coming to Kufa, and you see the head of the shuhada there. And we said, this caravan, a lot of women and children are in this caravan, and they've been witnessing the heads. They've been walking with the heads the entire time. And now the people of Kufa see what they have done. Say, Ajab, look what we did. Imam Hussein's head is on a spear. Hadrat Abbas's head is on a spear. These great companions of Imam Hussein, they're Kufans. They knew Imam Ali alayhi salam lived there for years. And they say, Lady Zainab bint Ali alayhi salam is captive. They wake up and they begin to cry. But this type of tears are not beneficial. And Lady Zainab reprimands them that you've just killed Imam Hussein. I am responsible for killing Imam Hussein. How can you cry? She gave such a strong speech that everyone becomes quiet. They say even the animals, their bells do not ring, do not make noise. The government is very worried. What are we going to do? How can you make Lady Zainab not speak anymore? He knows how. They take the head of Imam Hussein alayhi salam during her speech, during her lecture, that they say, the narrator says, as if Ali ibn Abi Talib is speaking, as if he has come back and he is addressing us. They say, we know what to do. They bring the head of Imam Hussein alayhi salam in front of Lady Zainab. There she begins and changes what she was talking about and addresses the holy head. Ya hilalan لما استتم كمالا. Oh new moon, that when you became full, when you're, halal is a new moon. This new moon comes and becomes full. This is the natural course. Before you became full, dear brother, before you shined, is how you were supposed to live a normal life. غاله خسفه فابدا غروبا. The eclipse snatched it and it began to set. The eclipse took Imam Hussein alayhi salam and he began to swim. ما توهمت يا شقيق فؤادي. I didn't think, oh part of my heart, كان هذا مقدرا مكتوبا. I didn't think that this would be my destiny. I've heard, Lady Zainab heard of what would happen to Imam Hussein. But I cannot imagine that it would be in this way, that I would be in the bottom of the spear and your head would be on top of the spear. يا أخي فاطمة الصغيرة كلمها فقد كاد قلبها أن يذوب. My dear brother, Fatima Saqir, little Fatima. Some say this is possibly Lady Ruqayya. Speak to Hazrat Ruqayya. Speak to your daughter, 3 or 4-year-old Ruqayya. It's as if surely her heart is close to melting. Because everywhere we're going with the head of Imam Hussein, and this Ruqayya little girl is saying, where is my father? How come he does not talk to me? Where did he go? She warned us, but soon you'll see in Sham that what Lady Zainab is saying, that Fatima Saghira is about to melt. This 3 or 4-year-old daughter of Imam Hussein, whose face is this small, a very small face of her. But the enemy's hand was very big. And how the poet says that what happens when you have a very small, innocent face and you have a very heavy and big hand. When the poet says this, when that hand smacks the face of such a small girl, 2 cheeks become bruised. Both sides of the face becomes bruised. Inna lillahi inna ilayhi raji'un. Ya Allah, we ask you, because of the honor of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, do islah of ourselves, inshallah. Change ourselves, make us Husseini, inshallah. Change our family, change our society, inshallah. Make us ready for Imam of the age. Give protection to Gaza, inshallah. Give blessings and forgiveness to our deceased. Give healing to our sick. And expedite the return of our Imam with a salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.